One struggle I have studying art online is that since I am studying on my own and I'm always focused on the next class, the next project, the next thing that I want to do, it's very easy for me to forget about everything that I've done in the past. Today I want to start a new format of videos. If you don't know me, my name is Julie. I study art online with New Masters Academy, and in this channel I share my artistic journey, both my studies and my personal journey into becoming an artist. So the idea of this art journal is that every month I'm going to spend some time to review everything that I've done and share it with you. So we're going to see the coursework, of course, the assignments that I did, but also my personal practice, my sketches, my drawings from life, and all of these things that I keep pictures of for my own record, but I don't necessarily share elsewhere. It's not going to be all very nice finished pieces. It's going to be a lot of process, a lot of things that I also start and don't finish. So basically, the journey as it is. It's a format that I've been wanting to do for some time now, and I'm very excited to start now. I think it is the perfect time to start this series because I just released a video about 1 year of studies at New Masters Academy, where I went over everything that I did during an entire year, so it can be a nice starting point if you want some context for this video. From February to April included, so 3 months, I had been working extremely hard at my courses at New Masters Academy. I was basically not doing any personal artwork besides the coursework. I was just doing video lessons and assignments pretty much 7 days a week, at least 6 days a week, and pretty much all day as well. I was challenging myself to try to finish the Drawing Foundations module as soon as I possibly can. If you don't know New Masters Academy, it's an online art school. They have a curriculum and they have modules, and the Drawing Foundations module is the first module of the curriculum. So what everyone has to do, no matter what kind of art they want to make. And it's a massive module, so I was challenging myself to finish it as fast as I possibly could. So at the beginning of May I felt pretty burnt out, which is logical because I had put aside my personal practice. I didn't go draw outside anymore. I stopped going to live drawing sessions, which wasn't the plan. My plan was to keep doing these things, but when the moment came to go outside or to go to my live drawing sessions, I just didn't have the energy, and I had less and less energy even for my online art classes. I also had been neglecting myself a little bit. I hadn't gone out very much for the 3 months from February to April, so I wasn't really in good shape at the start of May, and I was taking a few classes at the same time. So I was taking dynamic sketching, which is a very intense class. It's with Charles Yu, and it was taking more energy than I expected. For some reason, each time I finish a class, I have this idea that the next one is going to be easier somehow, but it doesn't happen. It just keeps getting harder and harder, not in the sense that it becomes more difficult or impossible. I mean that it becomes more demanding, and if you want to do the assignments and really take everything that the class is offering, you have to give your best, I think, for every assignment. And yeah, the bar keeps raising, so dynamic sketching has been very demanding on me. I was still working on it at the beginning of May, and I've stopped since. I was also taking a few other classes, so one that is called Visual Expression. It's a seminar. I was taking a gouache class, an art history class. I also had an assignment coming up, and I had 2 trips coming up in May. So I realized that it just wasn't possible, which it's not easy for me to give up things. I tend to be pretty stubborn when I put my mind into something, and it can be a strength, but it can also sometimes prevent me from taking care of myself and doing things in a healthier way. So at some point, I decided that I had to take a break and to drop some classes. So that's what I did. I took a break from basically all of my classes. Some of them I'm going to go back to, like dynamic sketching. I'm definitely going to go back to it in June. The others I'm not sure, but I stopped also because I was going away. I went away twice during the month of May. The first time was for a big family gathering, so I didn't do any art-related stuff. And 2 weeks later, I went away for 3 days to Alsace. It's a French region at the German border. I went there to meet some friends, and I didn't draw much, almost not at all, just a bit in the train and in a cathedral. But it was a very inspiring trip because I took the opportunity to visit a few museums there. I've been at an exhibition in Strasbourg. There was an exhibition about the work of Gustave Doré, who is a French illustrator, probably the most famous and influential French illustrator. I also went to visit the Fine Arts Museum in Strasbourg, where I saw a painting by Bouguereau that is one of my all-time favorite paintings. Bouguereau is a painter that has been inspiring me for a very long time. I've been making copies of his paintings. In 2016, when I didn't even know his name, but I noticed now with a little bit more knowledge about art history and painting that my taste was revolving around French academic paintings from this period, and Bouguereau in particular. So I was able to see La Vierge Consolatrice by Bouguereau, so Virgin Mary Consolating, I don't know if it exists in English, which was very inspirational. I think the Gustave Doré exhibition was the most inspiring to me, just because of the amount of work and the history of this illustrator. But this was also a fascinating visit, and I went to another museum in Colmar, the Unterlinden Museum. I don't talk too much about it, but I am editing a vlog right now. I took a ton of video footage during this trip, and I am just editing this vlog, so hopefully I will be able to publish it soon after this video. And of course I will leave a link if you want to check it out. But that took a lot of my month because I like my routines. I need my routines actually. And every time I have to go away from home, even for one night, it's just, for me a trip is even spending one night away from home. It completely disturbs me. I try to plan for it and to manage it my best. It's always depleting to me, and it's hard for me to get back to work when I come back from one of these trips. But one thing I've been trying to do is to go back to gesture drawing and keep practicing gesture drawing daily or like 5 days a week. For a while I've been trying to host sessions on the New Masters Academy Discord, so a few of us would draw from New Masters Academy live drawing session videos. Gestures, these were like 30 minutes videos, so I would practice for 30 minutes a day because I haven't been drawing gestures for a little bit of time. I had a period where I was heavily focused on it, and then from February to April again, when I was doing part 5 of the Drawing Foundations module like a silly person and just focusing on it, I didn't draw any gestures at all. So I was getting a little bit rusty, and as I knew that I had an assignment coming up, I'm going to get to it, about the figure, and that figure drawing is an important part of my practice, I wanted to get back to it. So I've been doing a little bit of gestures. I didn't do as many of these sessions as I planned, but I did enough for me to get back to it, to try different things and to unrust a little bit. I knew in February that I had assignment 4. It's a big assignment that is part of the program I'm in at New Masters Academy. due for June 1st. I hadn't done anything for it, or almost nothing for it, until the start of May, because I can work pretty fast, I can be pretty efficient when I put my mind to something, so I thought that having 4 weeks to do something was plenty. And I think it was plenty. It could have been plenty had I had energy and focus and something left in me, but I felt so depleted, so burnt out, that it's been extremely difficult for me to get to it, to get something I liked doing it. I started by putting together a Pinterest inspiration board, trying to decide which medium I wanted to use. I decided pretty quickly after doing my self-portrait in watercolor in April that I wanted to use watercolor again, because it's a medium that I appreciate more and more and that I really want to get into more. So I made this watercolor inspiration board with the figure. The theme of the assignment is the human figure. And then I went to the New Masters Academy photo reference library to find some poses and ideas. I had 2 different ideas. One was to make just a figure, no background, no environment, just a nude figure painting. And the other one was with more of an environment and more of an Art Nouveau inspiration. I ended up doing more sketches for the first idea, so just the figure, no background, no environment. It was very intimidating, not because of the task, but because of the state I was in. So I decided to start as small as I possibly could, with as little pressure as I possibly could. So instead of jumping straight into my painting or even straight into my final drawing that I would then transfer to the watercolor paper, I just started by doing some gesture, loose sketches from the references that I had chosen. And they were okay, but at each step of this project I felt stuck and unable to move on to the next one. So I wasn't fully satisfied with any of my gestures. I've been submitting it to group coaching, which helped me a little bit to regain motivation and confidence in my abilities. Then I thought, okay, so doing gesture like this and then blowing up the drawing and then transferring it is not the process that I want to do for this loose watercolor painting kind of idea. This is too meticulous, so it's not going to work the way I want. So I decided instead to do the same exercise, do again some gestures from my references, but instead I did them in watercolor. So I would draw directly on the watercolor paper and try to achieve something. This second phase of trying to do gestures in watercolor didn't work out at all. I'm going to show you some pictures that I took, but I'm not happy about what happened. So after that I put it aside again and I had pretty much given up. I was telling myself every day from the moment I went back from my Alsace trip to the deadline, which was June 1st. I went back around the 25th, so I had 1 full week to dedicate to this with other commitments, but all of my drawing time was going to go into this assignment 4. And every day I procrastinated very efficiently. I wasn't drawing at all, I was just avoiding it as much as I possibly could until the very next day, where I was like, okay, this time it's over, there is no way I'm going to do it today, the deadline is tomorrow, I can finally give up, please can I finally give up? And it's hard for me to give up things. I was afraid that skipping this assignment was going to make it a lot more likely for me to skip future assignments. I have one every 3 months with my program, that is the 4-year program. I'm just finishing the first year. So, and these assignments are optional, but since I've done the first 3 ones, I didn't want to break the chain basically. So on the next day I looked at my sketches, my ideas, my Pinterest board, everything I had been doing and putting together, and I had one drawing that was 90% finished. It's not as a piece, but as an under drawing for a watercolor painting, which is what it was intended for. It was like 90% done. I had received some feedback on it. I was at the point where I needed to make some corrections, then transfer it to watercolor paper, and finally paint. I knew that the kind of painting I was going to do for this assignment wasn't as involved and long as what I had done before. I tried to correct it, but there was no way I could correct it. It wasn't a major mistake, but everything I was doing to this drawing felt wrong. So that was my morning, and in the afternoon I decided that I wasn't going to use this one. I didn't feel good about this drawing, I didn't feel excited about it, I didn't actually want to paint it. And I think that's why I couldn't correct it actually, so I decided to start over. I looked at the photo references that I had curated for this assignment, and I decided to not even use those. So instead, I went into my own camera roll and I looked at statues, sculptures that I had photographed at the Fine Arts Museum in Lyon when I went. Probably the photos were taken like 2 months ago. So I just chose one and painted it again as a sketch, like trying to see what it could look like, and I didn't hate it. I didn't fully hate it. I thought that it had some potential. So then the same afternoon I did a second piece from another statue. It's called L'Aurore, so early morning, like sunrise. It's a statue that I really like. So I painted this statue and I submitted the assignment, and it was a huge relief for me. May has been chaotic and I had too many things on my plate, and even when I gave up a lot of courses and a lot of things, I still had deadlines and projects hanging over my head. One of them was making a 1 year of study at New Masters Academy YouTube video, because May is the month where it's my studying anniversary. So once this video was done, I felt a little bit better, and another huge one was this assignment 4. I felt better once it was done. So this was my kind of finished project for the month of May, and my priority at the end of the month and what I'm into right now is to get some personal practice back. When I was drawing outside in January, I went a few times. I really fell in love with this practice, but since I've been studying so hard, I put it on the back burner and I just forgot about it. So I'm trying to get back into the habit of drawing outside, and I even started to paint outside. I went twice with my watercolor. I'm still very new to this, and for me, I feel very self-conscious painting outside for some reason. I don't mind drawing at all. I don't mind people seeing what I'm doing. If they say hello, which almost never happens, people don't care about what I do. It's okay, I am prepared for this. But painting looks like a more advanced setup. It looks like something a more professional artist would do, and so I'm a little bit more self-conscious about it. I went once to the Grand Hôtel Dieu. It's a very beautiful building in my city. I went there for my first try painting outside. I figured out a few things about my setup. My watercolor palette was way too small, and for one of the paintings that I did, I tried using a water brush instead of my regular watercolor brushes. I don't really like the water brush at home, but I decided to give it a try anyway and to do a full painting with it, and I I'm really not a fan. Maybe with a lot of practice I could learn to work with it, because some people do, so I assume that's possible. But I like to have a brush that I can dry and use as a thirsty brush to correct things and to remove some water from my painting, and it's something that is just impossible to do with a water brush. It's always going to be wet. So I decided to take this out of my kit. I switched to a larger watercolor palette that has a little bit more mixing space, and then a few days later I went again, this time to the old part of my city, and it wasn't a very successful painting trip. It was just yesterday actually. I've been walking for a very long time looking for a place to sit with a nice view that's in the shade, because it was a little bit hot and I don't like being in the sun. And yeah, I was just looking for a place in the shade where I can sit and be comfortable for at least 30 minutes with a nice view. And I couldn't find any, so I had been walking for a very long time until I just sat somewhere because I was tired and I was about to just say, okay, it's not going to happen today, let's just go back home. But I sat there and I saw a nice street lamp contrasting on the blue sky, and it's an object that I really like. I thought, okay, maybe it's a shame to have come to this place that has so many amazing buildings to just paint this simple street lamp, but it would be even more of a waste to just go back home and paint nothing. So I painted it. I started by sketching it in my small watercolor A6 sketchbook, and once the drawing was done, I started to feel very bad about getting out my painting kit and starting painting it in public. It was a lot more difficult than my first plein painting session because I felt a lot more exposed. It's a very touristic area. There were a lot of people, and I know that nobody cares, but it took me courage and effort to force myself to actually start painting, because I could have just packed up, I had taken a picture of my reference and just go out elsewhere and finish it elsewhere from my photo. So I had to force myself to finish it on the spot, and yeah, I made this small painting. These are my first watercolor painting outside. I'm not super happy about any of them. I want to try using ink. I am carrying in my kit some fountain pens. I want to start using them in a more urban sketching style, not too sketchy, but I'm trying to find a sketching style outside that includes some watercolor, because it's a medium that I really like and I find it very portable and convenient. But I think having this added stress of being in public, not knowing my kit very well yet, not knowing how I want things to be set up yet, it's a lot of outside stress added to the painting session, which is already not something easy to do, to paint from life. So I'm not putting too much pressure on myself to do some amazing pieces from this right now. So these are my first paintings. I'm not super in love with them, but they're here. Another personal practice that I wanted to get back to was to go again to my live drawing sessions. Where I live, there are multiple actually live drawing sessions that happen weekly, but there is one at an atelier that I started to go to in January or February maybe, and I hadn't gone for at least a month, maybe 2 months, despite just loving it. It's something that always makes me feel good drawing. Yeah, live drawing, I didn't expect to like it as much as I do, but it's something that I really enjoy, and I'm usually also pretty happy about the drawings that I do at these sessions. Not all of them are good, but it makes me feel good. So I started going again. I went to only one session this month, it was last week, and I am so happy that I went for this session because we were extremely lucky. How the sessions work is that it's a 1.5 hour session We usually have one model, it's a nude model, who poses for us. These are short poses from 3 minutes to 15 minutes, usually from 3 to 10, and I had a couple 15 minutes poses here and there, but we usually have like 45 minutes of short poses. Then we take a break, a 15 minutes break, where we just walk around and talk to each other, and then we get back to the session and we do like 45 minutes of short poses again. This session that I went back to in May was very special because we had 2 different models. We usually have just one. This time we had 2 because our first model was pregnant, and she was very pregnant. So I felt extremely lucky to draw her. This was a very special session and I really like the drawings that I did. Some of them at least. I never like all of my drawings from these sessions. And our second model, I think the first model, maybe it would have been too tiring for her to pose for the entire duration of the session, so maybe that's why we had 2. But the second model was also a lot of fun to draw. She had a lot of personality. It really came out in the poses that she took and how she moved in between poses, and she was a joy to draw. On top of everything that I just told you, I've also spent a good week worth of work on a special project that I don't want to talk about before it's settled, but it's extremely exciting for me. It's a big opportunity and I will know a little bit more hopefully this week, and hopefully again I will be able to make some announcements this summer, so yeah, fingers crossed. If you're still here, please let me know in the comments what you think about this format of video. If there is anything that you would like me to talk about more, please let me know. I would really love to hear your thoughts. If you want to see my next art journal, you can subscribe to the channel. Thank you very much for watching, stay creative, and I will see you in the next one.